it's Casey's Corbin. I'm going to do that. I saw one of us make, and I don't remember, I think her name's Rita. I can't remember if he came up with a name or not. I didn't see that, but what I would kind of call a dirty puddle pour in a circle. And so the first thing that you need to be able to do this is iced coffee. And so it's early in the afternoon on Saturday for me, and so it is time for my second dose. So I'm going to have some iced coffee. Delicious. Okay. Now, I always got to take my own way of doing things. Got to do it my way. I think Frank Sinatra sang. And so instead of doing it in a cup, I'm going to attempt to do it in a condiment container. Now this condiment container, you might see, is pretty nasty. I've used it for a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I even have a previous pour on the inside here that I think will go along pretty good with what the color scheme that I'm going with. It's kind of a copper color. And so I'm just going to attempt to layer things on the inside of this. And so I might kind of drip it on the side a little bit. I'm going to start with white, probably end with white. I make these up like, I don't know, I probably made this one up just only about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it is not unusual for me to have paint that's made up this way for literally months. It stays very sealed. I put my additive in there, dimethicone, and I have no problem, so I am good to go. I don't have to stir anything right before. I can just grab these things, grab a substrate, some canvas of some kind, and just hit it. If I got 10 minutes before I need to go to bed at night and I just gotta Jones and I have to pour something, then you know, I can do that. So in this bottle here, this even has some of my measurements on there. I usually use less than 1/3 of water, more than 1/3 of paint, and then a little less than 1/3 of Floetrol, and I add, in this one I have put 3 squirts of dimethicone, which I use the L'Oreal Extraordinary Hair Oil. And so that's, and it just stands ready for me. When I'm ready to use it, I don't shake it because you don't want to get air bubbles in. That's one reason why we, frequently people will stir their paint up the day before so that they do not have a problem with air bubbles causing problems. All right. And so I've just kind of got my pattern. I've already tilted all of these. I just need to tilt them a little bit. Good. And this is a metallic orange here and a metallic red, and then here I have an ordinary red. And so I'm going to do those, just kind of see a little difference between the layers. Of course the gold is metallic, as you already know. And I'm not necessarily going for a real good layered look there. I understand that it's not going to be perfect, but I think that that's will end up with a look that I think I want. Good. And all of these have dimethicone in it. This probably does need a stir though, since I can't shake it real good. Could with a lid, but not real good. Alright. And I kind of like to begin and end everything with white. It's just a strange thing that I do. And I want to add my white here. And this is a cutting board. I'll move it now where you can see it. And it was just a thrift store find. And so I decided, see how it works. I don't know if it's going to work. But I put some blue painter's tape around the edge here because I think the wood is kind of pretty and might even create a frame effect if I just leave, after this dries a little bit, not entirely cured, I'll pull up the painter's tape and get a, you know, like a makeshift kind of framey feel, you know, on it. So we'll see. I've done something like that before and it worked, and I've done it on other things and it didn't work at all. So if you don't know, if you're unfamiliar, one reason why I would put white down ahead of time is now we don't have, for lack of a better term, water tension. I don't know if there's such a thing as paint tension, but that would sometimes stops our paint from flowing just because it's trying to go to a dry area over there. And so this creates a lot of this white, you will see, will go right off the edge, and so it'll seem like a big waste. But it's kind of just the costs, I guess, of doing it. Alright, so here's the paint that I have layered in here. And then I'm going to begin to just circle it around. Starting to get some of my oranges now. Some of the yellow's bleeding through. And one thing that is different that might be really not advantageous to this, trying to get like tree ring effects here, is that it does take some pressure on the bottle, and that's getting more of a mixture, and my stuff is, so it's not coming out as slow when you're pouring it out of a cup. And Rita, I hope that's the right name, was pouring it really slow out of a cup. I was hoping that doing it this way I would be able to have a little bit more control. And it is my nature to try to do things fast. I try to kind of produce a lot. I like, which isn't always, that's not everybody's taking, it doesn't need to be. It's not my wife's. She likes to, she's an artist as well, and she really likes the process. And she will take weeks and months to do a painting. She does watercolor, especially. She makes really cool jewelry on slices of wood that then she leaves the back unfinished so that somebody can put essential oil on. Now my center of this thing is moving. I'm kind of tracking with the movement, and I'm okay with that because I don't really like things super centered. Got the rule of third, or what I call the 2/3 rule, is that if this ends up 1/3 and off of the center or from the edge and 1/3 the other direction, then great. Alright, I'm getting quite a bit of movement here, which is really neat. Look at that. But that's the problem with my 1/3 rule. And okay, so that is a whole lot more red than I thought it would be. So now I can tilt this a little bit, get it to move around. Now you see all that white that I put on there. There she goes. We'll get a little bit of distortion in the circle, but I don't want too much. I don't want a jaggedy edge. And as I see that, and I see the sides now and how cool that they look, it almost makes me regret putting tape on the sides, because they're pretty cool looking. So I could torch this and see what else comes up from it. I know that if I torch it, I'm going to get a lot more cells, but it's also going to distort the lines that I was creating. And so I think I'm not going to torch this one. More cells will come up because of the dimethicone and the Floetrol that's in there, and so it'll continue to separate. If you can see here, that wasn't there just a second ago, and so some of these layers are separating by themselves and seem to be kind of expanding out, almost like that they're pushing the layers up whenever that happens from up the bottom. And so that's kind of cool. So it's almost like like a naughty pine. It's it's the layers of wood are being pushed up. And I got to tell you, every time that I look down at this thing, I'm seeing larger and larger cells in that area. And so I am not displeased with this. I think that this is pretty cool. I do kind of wish I would not have taped the edges now, because these edges are looking really neat. They kind of swirl off there. And maybe I'll try to take some pictures for you and just post those. But as expected, I lost the white, and it's no longer with us. And I probably didn't even really get to the stuff the coppery stuff that was at the bottom of this. I'm not seeing it, which I really like that color. I have a tendency to lean towards copper and patina colors, and I do work with copper metal sometimes, and even patina it. Go through a patina process, and that's kind of neat. So sold one of those pieces at an art show in Valdosta, Georgia this year on opening night. That was pretty cool. And it had a, you can probably look through my history. I posted it, excuse me, on some of the Facebook pages. But it had a wind-swept tree that was made that also included a copper foil on it. And so I put that down and then used the patina spray process on it, and it continued to emerge and change and grow. I'm sorry, I'm now talking about this. This is emerging and changing and growing. So it's, you never know what you're going to get. You know, I didn't really feel like I put that much red in there, but evidently I did, because that's about all that I'm seeing now. But that's pretty neat, and so I'll definitely try this process again. I might pour it out of the cup. I might use more distinctive colors that would create better lines and rows, but I do like what's happening here. So I hope that you enjoyed that. Thanks for joining me.